to some awesome science with us as we discover all about the weather. My name is Dr. Erica. I am so excited that you are joining us today. Today we are going to make some clouds in 2 different ways, which will be really fun. And tomorrow we'll learn about just how powerful pressure can be. And then on Wednesday, we are going to go on a field trip to the National Weather Center with Caitlin. I am super excited. She will be there to show us some pictures of her in action. She's going to take us on a tour through the building. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I hope that we see you guys then. And just a note, if you are just joining us, you should always make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and get notifications so that you know when we go live. And you can always support us at patreon.com/rosieresearch. All right, so we're going to make our clouds in 2 different ways today. I'm going to tell you about the supplies you need for each one. You can decide which one is right for you, or maybe you want to do both. And then we'll look at some pictures of clouds and talk about them as you guys run and go get the supplies if you don't have them all that you need. And we can learn about how clouds are formed through some fun science experiments. So for the first cloud, what you need is just sort of like a jar or a clear cup that you can cover up. So I have a piece of tin foil to cover it, but maybe if you're using a peanut butter jar, you might just have the lid and that would be great. And then you need either some hairspray or some smoke. I don't have hairspray in my house, so I've got some matches that I'm going to use to create some smoke. And then I have some hot water and an ice pack inside of an ice pack to keep it nice and cold. And then for our other cloud, you need like a 2-liter bottle. And you're going to need a cork that fits in that 2-liter bottle. So you'll have to kind of look through your corks that you might have because sometimes they're skinnier or thicker. It doesn't need to go all the way in, just a little bit. So this one, it only goes in about, a couple centimeters in, but that will be great for us. You need some rubbing alcohol. The higher percentage, the better, but it should work with 70 and above. You're going to need a pair of scissors because this cork is a little bit too long for us, so we're going to cut it down. And then you need a bike pump with the little needle insert, so the insert that you would use to pump up some balls. It's not like an actual needle, it won't puncture your skin, but it's called the needle for pumping up those balls. So that is what we need to do our projects today. I'm super excited to do them. I hope that you guys have your supplies and are ready to have some fun because it's amazing. If you don't have the supplies, you can run and go grab them right now, or you can hit pause because you can just hit play when you get back and you'll be like right in line with everything. So I did want to show you a picture of some usual clouds, some clouds that you've probably seen before. And we have, I think that's going to pull up on the screen. Yep, it's on the screen. So here we have some clouds. One of them is the cloud that creates like the Seattle gray. So it's probably like, it should just be called the Seattle cloud. It's like the cloud of Seattle. It's just that mundane cloud where the whole sky is gray and there's not really a cloud, which is a stratus cloud. And you might be able to pick out in there the cumulus clouds. Those look like little cotton balls. And those are the ones when you're like lying at the beach, you might be like, oh, Mom, that cloud looks kind of like a jelly bean. And she's like, I don't think it looks like a jelly bean. It looks kind of like a bunny's bum. And you're like, oh, it doesn't look like a bunny's bum. Now it looks like a horse. And you guys kind of, those are the clouds, the cumulus clouds are the ones that you sort of make pictures out of. And sometimes those cumulus clouds, they have a party together and they get bigger and bigger and bigger into a cumulus nimbus cloud. And that's the cloud we don't really want because that's the cloud that gives us thunderstorms. So you have the little cotton, happy, fluffy ones that are just like hanging out and being like fun little ice cream cones or pieces of pizza or cute little hedgehogs. And they get together and they're like thunder. And that's the cumulus nimbus. And in there you also might see some like really wispy clouds that are really high up. So they're not kind of close towards us. They're really high up. They're really wispy. And those are the cirrus clouds. So those are some clouds that you have seen before. And we also have some pictures of some very cool clouds that maybe you haven't seen before. I know Evan's going to change that for us. So on one of those, you can see if you can find it, it almost looks like a whole bunch of balls that are dropping in the sky. So it's sort of like these really like interesting balls. In fact, they're upside down clouds. They're pretty much upside down cumulus clouds. So instead of having the bumps on the top, they have the bumps on the bottom. And it's this very interesting phenomenon where you go from hot to cold really quickly. So it's not sort of this gradual change in temperature. It's like quick change and it inverts the clouds and you get these upside down clouds that are very bumpy, which I think are really cool. You might also see a cloud in there that looks pretty much like how you might be drawing an ocean wave. It's got sort of like that really waved look to it. And it's just like what you would see, you know, if you were, it's really what you would see if you're going to draw like a tsunami. It's really cool. Those are Kelvin-Helmholtz clouds. And those ones, you can find them everywhere in the world, but they're really, really hard to find because they don't last for very long. So they only last for a few minutes. We don't quite know exactly how they're made because they're super rare. Another one that's pretty rare is called the Morning Glory Cloud. And if you live by the ocean, you might actually see these more often because you need to live by the ocean to see them. But those are these clouds, and they look like a whole bunch of cylinders that are rolling towards something. So it's like all these cylinders of clouds, and they're not going straight up and down. They're just like cylinders rolling. And there's like, I think maybe 3 or 4 of them in a row. And those are really cool too. So those ones are created partly by the sea breeze. They're called, I think, Cirrus clouds, but they're also really well known as morning glory clouds. So those are a couple of the fun ones. And we can send this picture out and you can see if you can figure out what some of the other ones are, which will be a fun research project if you decide that you love these clouds. But how are clouds made? Well, we have this thing in the sun that we looked at last week, and the sun hits the water of the ocean, and we're kind of going through the water cycle here. The water in the ocean gets really warm, and what happens when you put water on the stove and it gets really warm? If it gets really warm, you can see it. You can see the gas coming up. It starts to evaporate, and the water from the ocean will evaporate, and it just hangs out in the air for a while. Now, when it gets colder, the air can't hold as much water, so it needs to get rid of some of the water, the vapor in there. And the way it does that is it makes water droplets, but it needs something to make those water droplets on. Some of the biggest things are mushroom spores. Mushroom spores in the air help create rain. Smoke is all sorts of little tiny fine particles that are in the air. Dust is another thing that the water can sort of condense on. It makes a little teeny tiny ball of water. And you get billions of those teeny tiny balls of water together, and they make a cloud. And then if you have a bunch of those and you keep cooling down, some of those teeny tiny drops of water merge with their friends, and we start getting bigger drops that then fall to the ground as rain, and that pretty much completes our water cycle. So we get evaporated, we turn into a cloud, we rain down into the ocean, and then it evaporates back out. So I would love to show you how to make a cloud 2 different ways. So one of the ways is to just take some hot water, and you would pour it in, and you can already see I sort of have some steam coming off, so it is definitely evaporating. And I am going to, before I put this on, I need something for my cloud to nucleate on. I need something for it to condense onto. So I have a match. If you don't want to use matches, you could use like just a spritz of hairspray. Will work really, really well for that. But I don't have hairspray, so I'm going to use a match. And because I don't want to, I wasn't going to light the match off the box because that always takes like a lot of time. But maybe I'll just light it off the box. It's taking more time. There we go. All right, so you can light this, blow it out, and just get some of the smoke in there. The smoke is the important part. You're gonna cover it up with whatever kind of lid that you have, and then you're gonna put your ice pack on top. So this gives us that change in pressure that we like, and we can put this over here. This one takes a little bit of time for the cloud to truly form, because kind of what we're seeing right now is stuff on the sides of the walls.
So this is a second technique for making a cloud?
This is a second, this is one technique for making a cloud, is doing that. The other technique I think is just way cooler. So clouds and temperature and pressure, they're all related to each other. So here we have a change in temperature. We can model a change in temperature also with a change in pressure. And this also happens on Earth, right? Down here, we have much higher pressure. The air, it's more dense where we're at, and then up there, it's a lower pressure. We can change it from a high pressure to a low pressure by using a bike pump. So the first thing we're gonna do for that is you do need a cork that will fit into your 2-liter bottle. And it needs to fit kind of snugly if I push it in, all right? And I'm gonna cut this down so that my needle can go through it. Because right now, if I were to put it through the cork, I wouldn't actually get the needle through. So the needle stops here, my cork stops there. It's a little too long. So I'm gonna shave some of this off. And the way that you can do that pretty safely is you choose a spot, and maybe you'll have to cut a little bit more later, but you choose a spot and don't try to cut it all at once. So give it like some pressure on your scissors, open it up and roll it. And you just keep rolling it, and you're kind of actually cutting all the way around it. And you just keep doing that as a way to cut down that cork. All right, and it's a little less scary than trying to put all of your force. I don't like ever using all of my force on a pair of scissors. It's sort of, it makes me nervous. And you'll notice it's not coming right away. I'm putting some effort into it. I'm doing it a few times so that I can be safe and have control of that.
Could you use like a bread knife or something too?
You could use a bread knife too. It just sort of depends how you're feeling about safety. All right, so once I've cut my cork down to size, and now I notice that if I were to insert the needle, it will come out the other side of the cork, which is exactly what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cork onto this guy, and I want to make sure that the bottom of the cork will go in the right direction. So I don't want to put it on this way, because then it'll go into my bottle funny. So I'm just going to put this onto my bike pump with the needle inserted. There we go. And you can double check that you can hear it pumping when you have that cork on. All right, so it's pumping up for me. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of rubbing alcohol into my bottle. And what's in here right now is actually also just rubbing alcohol from earlier. That was from yesterday because our girls were having a lot of fun with this project yesterday. We actually got out a hairdryer, or no, we got out the vacuum to vacuum the cloud out and see if we could make like different tornadoes and blow the cloud around, which is cool. So you're gonna shake it up. You could either put this in first or shake it up, or shake it up first. It doesn't really matter. And you're gonna put this in so it plugs it, all right? Now this is not a fantastic pressure seal, and that's good because we don't actually wanna build up a ton of pressure in here because that could burst our 2-liter bottle. So we do wanna be safe about that. I'm gonna pump it up a few times, and it's not going to be like really high pressure, all right? So I'm just gonna give it a few pumps. And I'm holding it sort of all together. All right. And I can kind of hear a little whistle of some of the air escaping. That tells me I'm probably where I want to be. I'm going to just pop it out. And now I have a cloud. How cool is that? And now you can make the cloud come out and form other cool clouds. You could vacuum your cloud up. But that really fast change in pressure forced all of my the alcohol droplets to condense and make this cloud. All right, you can actually do this with hot water in here. It's just a little harder, and I kind of like to go the easy novice route before we go a little harder. But it's really fun because you can blow this cloud out of here. And if you're like, I want to touch a cloud, you can put your finger in there. You can feel what a cloud feels like. You might be surprised, you might not be. And you can always do this again. And, ooh.
Should we show them again?
Yeah, we're going to show you again, and actually I want to show you guys something else too, because we can make the cloud go away as well. So I'm going to pump it up first, and you notice, so it's a little bit, there's a little bit of cloud in there right now. Watch what happens as I pump it up. It gets crystal clear, because that change in pressure, and it gets crystal clear, which is also another really cool thing. So I can pump it out, and I get a cloud, or I can take this cloud and I can make it disappear, which is why we don't see clouds very often in high pressure areas. Look at that, even just one pump, look how much of that cloud went away as we change the pressure, which is really cool. So you can play, I mean really, you could play all day making these clouds because it's so fun. And you can blow in it and see, can you make
a tornado?
Yeah, I don't know. We were trying to make all sorts of things. If you find it stops working as well as what you would like it to, it doesn't get as like cloudy, what you can do is you can dump the alcohol and start again. You can re-shake it up, just like that, and then you can just start it all over again. This one's so much fun. And all you need is that bike pump that has the attachment to blow up balls and a cork and a 2-liter with some rubbing alcohol. Okay, I guess you need a few things. But all of these things you probably have at this point.
Can you tell us why it gets cloudy?
Yeah, so right now everything is under high pressure. It's like really being forced to be in like that vaporized state. When I give it low pressure, it's going to all sort of condense on itself, right? So it's going to feel cold, and that coldness, right, what happens with cold water? Cold water doesn't make the steam. Cold water is what condenses and falls back down. So you notice if I release it slowly, it doesn't make as good of a thing. It needs that quick time to really condense quickly, which is fun. You can shake it up some more, and then you get that good cloud. You really do want to just yank it out. I would hold both sides as you yank it out, because if you just sort of gently hold one, this guy could go flying because it's pressurized and it's trying to get all of that air out, which is cool. So this is the low pressure state, which is high up in the sky where we have lower pressure zones, and then the high pressure sort of lower where it's more dense. But you can get those zones all over the place. Even very high up, you can get high pressure zones or low pressure zones depending on the temperature of the air. Then we can take a look over here. This one is not as much of my favorite. I mean, it does work, but it's always so much harder to see, one, and it always feels like this one looks so much cooler. So this cloud is always going to be very, very small, and you're going to have to like look really kind of far up. Ours is actually condensing on the edges, so what we could do, yeah, if I look inside, you do get a little bit of a cloud that will come out, but it's really hard to see this one. What I would suggest for this one is you could either open it up and take a peek, and you'll see some of what we saw in here. It's just gonna be much less. It's gonna be like a little bit of it. Or you could try again and you could sort of clear down the walls. But you can almost, you can see it. Do you see it kind of coming out? Maybe they can't see that on the video, I'm not sure. You can kind of see it coming out. But we could try to also clear down the walls and remake a new one, which can work. So again, to remake the new one, what you would do is you got to add some smoke. That gives it a spot to condense onto. All right, if it doesn't have anything to condense onto, nothing is going to happen. And then you just set this on top, and you're just going to wait for a little while, and it will start to get a little foggy in there, and that little fogginess is your cloud. But of course this one...
Well, let's be honest, which one's cooler?
This one's so much cooler. I mean, truly, if you have that bike pump, this is the one to do to make a cloud, because this one does not disappoint. So those are some fun ways that we can make clouds as we learn about it. And tomorrow, so you saw what happens in here when we went from high pressure to low pressure. Pop, made a cloud, right? I want to show you guys how powerful air pressure can be. So we're going to move some pretty incredible things tomorrow just using the air. We won't have to touch it. It's going to be a great project. I actually did this project when I was really, really little, and when I was thinking about it, I was sort of shocked because I hadn't even done it with my 5th grader ever. And she was like, what is going on? I was like, oh, we've not done this project. And it's so much fun. It's really cool. So tomorrow you guys will need a boiled egg and either some matches, or you can use hot water as part of it also, or you could use like a hair dryer. And then you need like a glass bottle that you can put your egg on top. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, I'm gonna say goodbye to our YouTube friends and hello to our Zoom friends as we finish our afternoon. You guys can show me your projects as you're doing it. I would love to see your clouds be made. Or we can just sit and hang out and chat. And then tomorrow we'll see you again. And I can't wait.
Wednesday.
And Wednesday we have our National Weather Center tour, which is gonna be so much fun. I can't wait. All right, goodbye my friends. We will see you tomorrow, and I'll see my Zoom friends right now.